Right. So our previous classes focus was on Dax language and then how the data is stored in a one PBIX file that you work on. So when you're opening Power BI desktop and then when you're connecting to a data source and then when you're pulling the data, whether it could be one table, two tables, multiple tables. So you would have Vertipack engine in place, which will help you to store the data. So we have seen that the Vertipack engine will compress your data. So if you have 10 GB of data, so based on the data, how you have, and based on the data types, so it could directly compress it to 1 GB because that's how this Vertipack engine is designed. And then the Vertipack engine will break your table into specific columns. So so you see we have this table available here. So let's say if we have only 4 to 5 columns, then what Vertipack engine will do is it will break all these columns separately and then it will store it separately. So the first function, what it is performing is to compress your data based on the data type, based on the values, and then they are different algorithms for compression. And then your columns, each column in a table will be stored separately. But when you interact on the front end side on the dashboard, I mean in Power BI desktop, so you would be seeing like a full-fledged table. But behind the scenes, in your Vertipack engine, so it will be stored as each columns will be stored separately here. And then we have seen when you build very simple visual or very complex visual in Power BI desktop, so indirectly there will be a DAX query running behind it, and then that DAX query will be sent to the formula engine, and then formula engine works with the storage engine because storage engine will have the data, and then it will return the output on the front end side. So the key phrases what we have to remember from this is formula engine, storage engine, Vertipack engine we have, which is nothing but again the storage engine, and then the way the data is stored, which is in memory columnar database. And then we have discussed there will be two different approaches. So one, we will have import mode where we will be getting the copy of the data, and then second we'll be having the direct query mode. So you could see he, here we have seen import mode connection, direct query mode connection, live connection. So in the second approach here, the query directly will be sent to the database. If it is SQL Server, then the query from the formula engine through the storage engine will be directly sent to the database, but we will not have data available in the PBIX. With that said, we on the Power BI side, we tried to see a very simple operation. So we tried to create calculated columns in Power BI desktop so that we could achieve uh, the front end requirements. So we were focusing on products table. So within the products table, we worked on a requirement where we wanted to combine product name, quantity per unit. So the operations that I performed in the last video was I have clicked on this a new column option at the top. So this will be within the table tools. And then you could see now the menu at the top is extending. So apart from table tools, Power BI is now also showing column tools as well. And then it's giving the option for doing the formatting here, and then sorting, creating relationship, and then giving options of adding new columns as well. So within the products table, the way we were trying is we were trying to combine products and quantity per unit. So let me give the column name because this is the syntax we have to follow. So first we have to give the column name, and Then we have to specify the column we want to include in this calculation. So we start with the table name, and then we then give the column name here. So this one, if I don't do anything, and then if I just commit it without appending quantities per unit, then you would be seeing this column will be similar to the data what we have in the product name. So I did not do anything here. So I'm just referencing to this table and column. So it is referencing to this column. So, and then it created similar column the way we have this product name here. And then on top of it, so I can do anything here because calculated column is you would be creating based on your requirements. So I could say here as products. So I'm appending two different strings here. So appending two different strings are done using ampersand here. And then we have the products, and then we click on apply. So you could see here for this column, so we have the product name, and then now you concatenated the string here. So instead of this particular string, we can also reference here a column. Then here what we could give is uh, quantity per unit. So here we have products, and then we have quantity per unit, and then I can click on apply. Yep. So this is what we have covered. And then after that, we also have seen how we can also perform operations on numeric columns. So where you would be doing any addition operations or multiplication operations. So we have unit price and units in stock. So I can perform an amount calculation here, which multiplies unit price. I can start typing, and then it will give me all the suggestions. So I'm using the unit price here. And then after that, I'm using units in stock. When I click apply here, so you could see it's giving me the output here. And then at the top, I can also perform, I want to have a comma here. And then within the formatting, I could directly select currency, and then it will auto pick the commas. So uh, for decimal places, so it gives auto, so you can set this to whatever specific number that you're looking for. And then now if I come on the reporting side in the report view, and then when I click on this new tab, I can come within the products table, and then you could see the sign here. So let me click here. So here, this sign represents a calculated column here. And then we have other signs as well. So this one represents a numeric column. So here you could see the same thing. So we have numeric columns, and then calculated numeric columns, and then we have a calculated string column here. So using this, now I can add a simple table visual. So the steps that I have to follow is I click on this table visual, and then now I select the first column, which is combined products and quantity, and then I can add amounts column here. So in this one, so you could see when I come here, uh, and if I pick the example, so uh, let me pick one product. So let's add the product ID here. So I'm adding a slicer, and then let me select product ID. And then within this slicer at the top right, as I mentioned, so I can change this to list. Drop down for this requirement, I'm changing this to list. And then I'm picking product ID as 1. So if I see this data here on the front end side and then compare it within the data view, so let me do the same operations here, and then picking product ID is equal to 1. Then the number what I'm getting here is $702. So here we are seeing the same thing. Okay. And then now for this similar requirement, so if I duplicate this report page, and if I now clear this product slicer, so we have this report page here, which we have originally built, and now have duplicated this report page, which gives me list of all the products here. And then let me clear this filter here. So you see, we have multiple columns in here, and then we also have this column by category ID. So if I come here, and then let's say if I am replacing this product and quantity by category ID, then I can remove this column, drag and drop, and then add category ID, and then let me sort by category ID. So you could see if I come to this data view and then pick category ID as 1, this time Power BI doesn't have this aggregated number because in this product table, we have the data at the product level, but not at the category level. But the way Power BI is showing you is it is aggregating the data for you and then displaying it here. So what this is saying is for the category ID 1, which is list of all this product, so which will do a sum of all this amount, and then this is the output we have, so which is 12,400. So this is performing aggregation here. So this is adding up all the numbers. So you could see if you come within the values here, if I click on this drop down, so you could see this is the mathematical operation that is this is performing. So apart from that, we can do different things as well. So it's it's taking the row value. So this is the very key phrase here. So let me write this down. So at the row level, whatever aggregation it will do, it will be called as the row context. Okay. So this is the first thing. And let me quickly go back to the data view. And here, let me clear all the filters. And so, okay. So let me add another filter here. So the way I add it is within the visualization, I click on this filter, and in the products table, I can click on discontinued. So this will give me options whether to select which of the values I want to choose. So if I select true, so I'm now looking for only products that have been discontinued. So if I click on false, I'm now seeing all the products that have been continued. So when I see at only at a specific row, then it's giving me the row context. So the other thing what we will have is the filter context. So if I see the filters available here, then for my calculation here, so you could see this particular slicer selection, what we have within discontinued, is getting affected on this table visual, what we have. Okay. And then based on that, it's displaying the output numbers for me. And then apart from that, it is also taking the row context. So Power BI is seeing that we want to see the data by category ID. So it is taking this filter into consideration, and then it's seeing the category ID for which it has to display the data. By combining this two, that is when it is trying to get the output for us. So if I come in the data view to demonstrate the same thing, the way Power BI is performing in this instance is, so it is trying to get all the products from the category ID as 1, But the other filter that is getting applied here, so if I come back, so the second filter is we want to consider only the products where the discontinued status is false. So if I come here and then when I click on this discontinued status as false, and then when I click on OK, so these are only the list of products that are being considered for getting the output. So we are seeing the amount. So this is the value of what is being considered. And then if I choose true here, so this is the product which is getting excluded from our calculation. So this is what you guys have to understand. So the different context we would have for this calculation. So we are applying filters. So simple thing, it's the filter context. And then we also will have the rows. So then we would have a row context. And then based on that, Power BI will try to get the output for us. But now when we see the grand total here, so at this particular time, we are not having category ID in picture. So for this instance here, so this will directly have only this for filter context, which is working on it. Because when we come here at the grand total, irrespective of what category ID it has, it just have to summarize everything and then it has to give you the output. Okay, so at this particular time, so only this particular slicer is acting for you. But at the row level, when it has to break down and then show you the number, so it will be having row context with any of the other slicers that are acting upon. But let's say if I don't have this slicer applied, so if I come here and then remove the slicer selection here, and then if I also remove this value here at this particular time. So it has a row context here based on the category ID. And then after that, we have this output. So at this particular time, we don't have the filter context. Okay, so this is how the calculations operate in Power BI. And a similar thing, as I mentioned, so we can do the same calculations. So for when you create a column here, as I mentioned, this Vertipack engine model will be residing in your RAM. So when you added this calculated column, product and quantity, it has taken space in your model. So the way you can avoid this is by using the calculated measure instead of a calculated column here. So the simple way for you to move this calculation to a measure is what you could basically do is within this product table, I can click here and then say a new measure. And then here I can paste the logic and then say amount. And then I'm creating this as a measure. And in this, so as we want to iterate in each row and get the output value, so I'm using sum x. X here represents that it will iterate over each column and then it will give you the output. So we have products table, and then the operation what we want to perform here is units, and then units in stock. So we are closing the operations here and then we are clicking on apply. And then now we want to apply, we want to use this calculations here. So you could see here, if you guys observe, uh, so we created two different calculations here. One is the calculated column. So here is the symbol, which is like a table with a sigma symbol. But the second one, what we created, it's like a calculator icon. So whenever you are opening a Power BI desktop, and then whenever you're seeing the calculator icon, then it will be a calculation for you. So you could directly click on that, and then you will be able to see the calculation that is there for you. Okay. And now you could directly use this in your table visual, drag and drop, and then add it here and then you'll be able to see the numbers are basically the same. And the other thing, what you could do here is now instead of the table tools, column tools, at the top, we have measure tools. And within the measure tools, I can directly click on formatting. And then I could say, show me this one as a currency. And I can say for decimal, I want to be specific and then only want to show 2 decimal places. So here you see, this is now showing me the output. So now let's take things one level up. So we have been discussing doing calculated columns and then creating measures. So we will be keeping focus now on this amount calculated column that we have and then the measure we have. But as of now, I'll be just focusing on this particular calculation. So let's say if we want to show this calculation, let me back up. So let's say if I have to do multiplication here or do any percentage calculation, then I can extend this calculation now. And then the other thing what you could do is you can also apply formatting to this logic. So the way you do for the modifications for this is you can press Alt and Enter. Alt Enter will take you to the next line. But if you just press Enter here, it will commit your all the code changes. So if I, let's say if I give a space here, and then if I just press an enter, so this will commit my changes. But let's say if I come here and the starting of this measure logic, and then if I press alt enter, so this will take me to the next line. And then if I press shift, uh, sorry, if I press tab, then it will give me an indentation. And then SumX is the first logic that we are applying. And then if I press shift enter here instead of alt enter, because alt enter will take us to the next line, but I want to keep the indentation. So what I could do is, so let me move this indentation here, and then I'm coming here. Instead of doing alt enter, what I'm doing here is I want to do shift enter here. So you could see how it's maintaining its indentation. So this will be very easy for anyone to read the code. So again, I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing a shift enter. So I could show you what will happen if you do an alt enter. So you could see it's uh, starting completely in the next line instead of giving a space. And then we have this operation, and then we close this code here. Okay. So this is how we do the formatting, but the same formatting is also done using the Dax formatter. So if I come here and then look for Dax formatter, and then if I copy the same code, so let me remove the spacing here. Yep, so we don't have any spacing. I'm copying this code, coming here on this Dax formatter, and then pasting the code and then saying format. So this will directly format the code for me. If the logic is complex, then it will very like structure your query very well in terms of readability and then give it to you. Yep. If you don't feel to do it, then you can use the Dax formatter directly. Okay. So now we have this logic. So if we have to add more logic to this Dax calculations, then we can now use variables to break our code. So let's say your manager is saying uh, whatever amount value you get. So we just have to show 70% of that output amount. And then what we could do is, so let me keep this as first version of the code. Let me copy this logic and then let me add a new measure here. So I'm keeping this, but the new measure, whatever I'll be adding here, I'll be giving a suffix as version 2.0. So I'm pasting the logic here, and then I'm seeing here version 2.0 of the same amount logic. But this time, I'm going to give little more space by pressing Alt Enter. And then here I'm saying this is my amount. So let me remove underscore for now. Okay. So now I'm breaking my code here. So at, at this instance, the way I create my variable is I give this initial uh, define key phrase, which is var, and then the variable name. This could be anything here. So you could say amount, or you could say AMT. So it doesn't matter. So whatever you give. And then after that, we gives equal to followed by the DAX logic. And we can output this value using whatever variable we want to return it. So you could see I defined a variable, and then I assign the logic which we were using, and then I'm returning this variable, whatever we created. I can apply this, and then at the top, again, I can do the same formatting. So I can change this to currency, and then here I can change the decimal places to 2, and here I can drag and drop and add the amount value. So you could see first column here, calculated column, returning the same thing. Amount, first version of the measure that we created is the same thing. And then amount version 2.0 is the same thing. And then in version 2.0, we have created this logic using a variable. And now if we want to see the actual amount, then I'm pressing Alt Enter to go to the next line. And then here I'm saying variable. So this is a new variable for me saying actual amount. So as per the instructions, what we got, so we have to just take 70% of this, which will be 0.7. So at this instance, so you could see we have this first variable doing one task, second variable doing one task, and then now you have a choice whether to output the first variable, which is in line number 3, or on the second variable, which is in line number 5. So here we say actual amount, and then when I press OK, so this is done here. And then now you can observe the output what we are getting here. Okay. And we also can extend this calculation here. So now you are applying the filter here, discontinued as true or false. But let's say in this same table visual, we want to show one calculation for continued and then one calculation for discontinued. So the way we have to do that is let's take a calculation, the first version of our calculation here. Let's take the version 2.0. I think this one will be pretty simple for you to understand. And then here I'm saying new measure, and then I'm pasting the code again here. And then we want to see amount, which is measure again, but amount we want to see, which is continued. Okay. Um, so here we have this amount calculation. So let me remove the second logic as we don't have the second logic available. So I can just keep it as amount. And to just for you guys to see the difference between amount and then amount filter, I'm keeping this side by side here. And the difference what we will have here is this is a very key function. This function will be like a friend for you for your complete Power BI journey. This is a calculate function. So the syntax of the calculate function is you would have your expression. So the current expression for us is we want to apply, do this sum operation. And then after that, we want to perform this filter operation here. So I'll give a comma here. And then now when I search for this discontinued field, I'm able to see this, and I can say we want this to be true. And I'm applying here, and I have this logic for me. So the way I have written this logic is I have this expression available, which is nothing but what we have been doing. So this is same as this one, what we have, but I have calculate, and then this is my first parameter. This is one, and then I have this comma here, and then I have this filtering done. And then now I can return the output instead of amount. So you could see Power BI is highlighting for me, and then I'm returning amount filter here. And so this should be false actually. And if I drag and drop add, add to this, then you could see 7408. It's returning the same number. Let's see the logic here. If I come here, so true or false. Okay, so to keep it simple, let's quickly change this logic here. And let's say we are doing is only amount for category 1. Then what we do here is, sorry, I think this one is coming from a different table, so that's the reason. So this should be from products table. And this should be continued, the same thing. Yep, you see 69,000 here. And then the good thing is I can copy this logic, add a new measure here, and then